Imagine you're standing at the helm of a ship, navigating through a stormy sea of information. Waves of data crash around you, numbers, charts, trends threatening to overwhelm. But what if you could transform that chaos into a clear map, guiding your crew to safe harbor? That's the power of data storytelling and decision framing. In today's data-drenched world, it's not enough to have the facts. You need to weave them into a narrative that inspires action and frames choices in a way that cuts through the fog. Welcome to this exploration of how to master these essential skills. By the end, you'll see why they are the tools of top leaders, from Silicon Valley CEOs to nonprofit visionaries. Let's start with data storytelling. At its core, it's the art of turning raw data into a compelling story that resonates with your audience. Think about it, data alone is like a pile of puzzle pieces scattered on the floor. Without context, they are meaningless. But when you assemble them into a narrative with a beginning, middle, and end, they reveal a picture that moves people to act. Why does this matter? In business, decisions aren't made in a vacuum. According to a study by McKinsey, organizations that leverage data effectively are 23 times more likely to acquire customers and 6 times more likely to retain them. Yet, 70% of data projects fail not because of bad data, but because of poor communication. That's where storytelling comes in. It bridges the gap between cold analytics and human emotion. So, how do you craft a great data story? First, know your audience. Are you pitching to executives who care about ROI or engineers focused on feasibility? Tailor your tale accordingly. Start with a hook, a surprising fact, or a relatable problem. For example, did you know that 90% of startups fail within 5 years? But what if I told you data could flip that script? Next, build the plot. Introduce your data as characters in a drama. Use visuals like line graphs to show rising tension, sails dipping like a hero's fall from grace, then reveal the climax, the insight that turns the tide. Avoid jargon, speak in metaphors. Instead of saying correlation coefficient of 0.85, say these trends dance together like partners in a tango, predicting success with uncanny accuracy. Finally, end with a call to action. What decision should they make? This is where data storytelling segues beautifully into decision framing. Decision framing is the subtle art of presenting choices in a way that influences perception and outcomes. It's rooted in behavioral economics, pioneered by thinkers like Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. Remember their prospect theory? It shows we're not rational robots. We're swayed by how options are framed. A glass half full versus half empty isn't just semantics, it's a frame that can change everything. In practice, framing means highlighting certain aspects of data to guide decisions without manipulating. Ethically, of course. For instance, in healthcare, framing a surgery as having a 90% survival rate boosts patient confidence more than saying 10% mortality rate, even though it's the same data. The positive frame reduces fear and encourages action. But let's tie this back to data storytelling. When you frame decisions within a story, you amplify impact. Take a real-world example. During the COVID-19 pandemic, data storytellers like Dr. Anthony Fauci didn't just spout statistics. They framed them narratively. If we mask up, we're not just saving numbers, we're saving grandparents, teachers, and communities. This framing turned abstract data into a heroic quest, driving public compliance. Now, let's dive deeper into techniques for effective decision framing. First, use contrast framing. Present options side by side to highlight trade-offs. In a business pitch, don't just say option A costs $1 million. Frame it as option invest $1 million to yield $5 million in returns, while option B saves short-term cash but risks long-term stagnation. This creates a clear hero and villain in your story. Second, employ gain-loss framing. People hate losses more than they love gains. It's called loss aversion. So, frame your data story around what could be lost if action isn't taken. A marketing team might say, without this campaign, we'll lose 20% market share rather than we could gain 20%. It lights a fire under decision makers. Third, incorporate social proof framing. Weave in stories of peers who have succeeded. Companies like yours, using similar data, saw a 40% efficiency boost. This frames the decision as a safe, proven path, reducing perceived risk. But beware the pitfalls. Poor framing can lead to bias. The anchoring effect, for example, where the first number you hear sticks in your mind. If you start a negotiation with a high anchor, it frames the entire discussion. Always ground your frames in accurate data to maintain trust. Let's apply this to a case study. Imagine you're a product manager at a tech firm. Sales data shows your app's user retention dropping 15% quarterly. Raw data, boring spreadsheets. But as a data storyteller, you frame it like this. Picture our users as explorers in a vast digital wilderness. Right now, they're getting lost 15%, abandoning the trail each quarter. But our data reveals a hidden path. Adding personalized notifications could guide them back, boosting retention by 25% and adding $2 million in revenue. Without it, we risk losing the forest for the trees. Here, the story humanizes the data, and the framing presents a clear choice: innovate or stagnate. The CEO, moved by the narrative, greenlights the feature. Result: real growth, not just hypothetical. In another arena, consider environmental advocacy. Climate data is overwhelming: rising CO2 levels, melting ice caps. Effective storytellers frame it as a generational legacy. This isn't about abstract graphs, it's about the world we leave our children. By framing policy decisions around investing in a sustainable future versus bearing the cost of inaction, groups like the IPCC have swayed global leaders to commit billions. To excel at this, practice these best practices. 1. Simplify. Use the rule of 3. Present no more than 3 key data points per story segment to avoid overload. 2. Visualize wisely. Pair your narrative with charts that tell the story at a glance, like a before and after bar graph. 3. Test your frames. Run A/B tests on presentations to see what resonates. And 4. Stay ethical. Transparency builds credibility. Hidden agendas erode it. Remember, data storytelling and decision framing aren't just skills, they're superpowers in an AI-driven age. As tools like machine learning generate more data, the human touch of narrative becomes your edge. So, what's your next move? Start small. Take a data set from your work, craft a story around it, and frame a decision. Watch how it transforms discussions. Data isn't destiny, it's a canvas. Paint your masterpiece, frame it right, and watch decisions align.